Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. The lighting's a little different today because we have a bit of a heat wave, so I've got most of my curtains closed. That's why it's a little bit darker than usual, but we'll make it do. Either way, today's case is about Skye Lynn Budnick, who disappeared on April 1st in 2008 at age 21. She had bought a one-way ticket to Japan and left that day. And apparently she had also had a flight from Tokyo to Hokkaido, which is way north in Japan, and that turned out to be her final destination. She didn't say she was going anywhere to her friends and family. They didn't really know that there was too much going on with her, aside from the fact she seemed to have certain depression, and she was trying to get a visa or something to study abroad in Japan, because she'd been learning Japanese for 3 years before then. And they denied her application because she had missed the deadline, which really bummed her out, and it almost seemed like a final straw type event. Now, the day before she left, she actually did visit, or some people visited her, and at the time they didn't think anything too much of it, except for the fact that she had asked her mother to make her favorite cookies, and she mentioned something to her sister like, oh, this might be the last time I ate them, or something along those lines, which of course at the time she didn't really think too much of. But of course, after a few days later of not having heard anything from her, they grew concerned and found their way into their email, because her email had been logged on her brother's computer previously and had never been logged off. So they found there that she had indeed booked the flights. They also found an unsent email to one of her classmates, Brittany, and it didn't quite say, at least the people that were talking about it that I listened to didn't quite say what the email said, but it sounded like either a suicide note or a saying goodbye as a start to a new life away from where she was. They went to the airport to try and figure out if they could get some security footage, anything along those lines, and the airport staff was not too happy to give them any of that. They did suggest that they should go check the parking lot to see if they could find her car, which they did. Inside her car, they found her jacket, a few other things, and it looked as though she had only really taken her laptop with her. She didn't have a mobile phone, she didn't have a credit card. I believe she had $800 worth of cash, and that's how she left. They also flew to Japan after that to try and figure out if they could maybe trace her there, and the airport staff on their end was also not super interested in sharing footage, etc. like that, similar to the one in the US. The ambassador to the US that was there was also not super helpful, but they did suggest that maybe they should go try to hand out some flyers with her name and her picture on it. Apparently not stopping to think that Japanese people do not normally accept things when you try to hand them things on the street, so that was also not a great success. They didn't actually get anywhere with that. Now, somebody did apparently spot them on April 7th in an inn somewhere in Hokkaido, and they said that she had looked cheerful and that she was actually planning on going to see the cherry blossoms, and she was heading up to Sapporo, which I think is the capital of Hokkaido. So that, in a nutshell, is the information I have on this case. So not a whole lot. We have no idea where she went after April 7th, whether she made it to Sapporo or not. Of course, that's why we're looking at this case with the tarot we have on the table, the Urban Tarot, which is this one with the more modern imagery. And I'm using a deck for the first time, and it is called the Good Tarot, which is this, which has some very nice symbolic imagery. And it works with elements rather than cups, swords, etc. So it's air, earth, water, and fire. But we'll make it through. In any case, it has very nice symbology, and maybe we'll be able to get some information on her trip through them. Before we get started, if you have any cases that you would like me to do a reading on, make sure to check the description, which could be either top right or at the bottom of the video. It sometimes moves around. You will find a link there to a Google form, which is anonymous, and you can enter the name of the person that is a public case they would like me to take a look at, and provide some extra information in case you know something or why this case is important to look at. You can put that there. If you've already done that, that's fine. It's in the list. Don't worry about it. Eventually we'll get to it. Now, as per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the cards. As soon as I have an amount on the table that pretty much fills the screen, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so that didn't take too long. We're starting off with the Three of Swords in reverse, followed by the, I guess this is the Knight. Yeah, that's Knight of Pentacles in this deck that's called the Prince. In this case also called the Day Trader. In reverse we have the Seven of Pentacles also. Well, that one's upright, but it's not a very cheerful card. Let's just start with these three then. So the first thing that came to mind when I saw these two in particular was maybe she actually thought that she could meet somebody there, and that didn't quite turn out as planned. Like maybe she had met somebody online perhaps that she may have corresponded with, possibly not via email, otherwise perhaps they would have seen that in her email when they open it, or maybe she had several emails. Either way, it kind of looks like she had contact with somebody whom she thought she could rely on, and then perhaps she went there and it didn't quite turn out the way that she had hoped. Because three is a crowd, and usually the Three of Swords definitely points towards that, and in this case it's a very dark Three of Swords. I don't want to mention too much what's going on in there, but if you take a good look at the card, there's a lot of sharp objects. We're looking at a bathtub with a swirl of red. Not great. So I think that this Day Trader has something to do with that, and this would be, like I said, the Knight of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles normally fairly methodical, usually plans things out quite well, but in this case it is represented by a Day Trader. Now Day Traders, if you know anything about trading and the stock market, I wouldn't necessarily call them Knights of Pentacles in the way that they operate. They tend to be very quick, they tend to have deals on hand. As you can see, there's lots of stuff going on in the background. They may also be a little manipulative because, of course, it is in reverse, so maybe they were methodical in their own way, like they had something planned that was not shown beforehand, and then we arrive at this destination and we see the Seven of Pentacles as well, which is kind of like, it's called sorrow, or no, it's called failure, sorry. This one's sorrow, but it's called failure over here, the Seven of Pentacles. So basically, whatever it is that they thought they were going to see ripen, whatever plans they thought were going to work out, actually may not be what they thought they were. It's like you're looking at the harvest that's coming up and thinking, I don't think I remember planting that, but I guess that's what's coming. That's kind of like that. So she didn't quite like what was coming up. And the next card that we see is the Ten of Wands, which is called Oppression, which is somebody being led to their cell, which I think is somebody who's freshly incarcerated. Then we have the Two of Wands called Dominion, and it's in reverse, followed by the Three of Cups, Abundance, and that is also in reverse. Now this is very much a similar, almost like a follow-up to these first three, in the sense like she arrives in a situation that she was not expecting, and then she finds herself kind of trapped because the Ten of Wands normally somebody who is carrying a load on their back and they're just waiting to get that load off of them. There is no travel though beyond that point, because the Two of Wands, which is normally kind of like a traveling card or a planning a traveling card, has a bit of a Chariot vibe as well due to the statue in the background, and it is in reverse, and it's called Dominion, so I think it's kind of like the roaming that she would have liked to have done was no longer an option. And we also see that the happy coming together with people that she may have been planning, the harmony with a bunch of other people also did not pan out. Maybe they just met and decided that they didn't like each other, and that kind of really put a damper on her travel plans. That's what it seems to be. Now, whether he planned it or not, or he or she, whoever this Day Trader is, it kind of looks like they may have, or at least they may have had or represented it in a way that she thought turned out different than what it actually looked like misrepresenting how it would work. And that turned into her having to quickly adjust her traveling plans because the fun and good times that she thought she was going to arrive into were not there. At least not the way that she wanted them to be there. We also have here the Wheel of Fortune. I've used this deck last week as well, where I described this particular Wheel of Fortune as one of the more bleak Wheels of Fortune. As you can see, it is a closed fairground, and it also very clearly represents the fun that she thought she was going to have, and then she showed up and the fairground was closed. That type of energy. Next we have the Four of Wands, also in reverse. So that's also a harmony card, which is called completion. And in this case, we can quite literally see that was not completed. Whatever it is, the plans that she had made with these people did not come to fruition. Instead, we have a turning of the wheel. We do, however, see an Ace of Cups, which I think may be a new person that she is meeting somehow, or met somehow, or a new initiative that she's taking. Maybe a romanticized image of somebody, because this is a very romantic background. You can see that there's somebody, or at least a couple, sitting in a boat right there, having a little boat ride to themselves. It's a beautiful fountain with a lovely backdrop in the middle of a park. Roses in the water, so maybe she had rose-colored glasses on that made her think like, oh, but if I just go to this place, or if I just go and talk to that person, it'll work out just fine, don't you worry. So after a big disappointment, she thought that she had a new opportunity, perhaps in the shape of another person, or at least another location, which she hoped would help her out. Now the next cards, we have Justice upright, we have the High Priestess in reverse, and we have the Eight of Swords in reverse. Now Justice upright, I think, was her thinking, this'll do me right, they'll have to do right by me. Maybe she even tried to call upon justice in some way, but not really thinking it through, because High Priestess in reverse over here. Perhaps maybe being led astray because the blindfold that Justice over here, at least the character on the card, has on, drew me in the most. Like maybe she thought things were just and things were right, but she didn't think about it at all, at least not as deeply as she should have. And then we have here the Eight of Swords, which is a mental entrapment, some type of thought pattern that she just could not get out. Now she was, I believe, based on a Facebook post that she made in 2007, prone to some type of anxiety and depression. I believe she's not doing well at work. She posted something about that, and things in her life were just difficult, so she may have had a predilection for that type of mood. So I think that's where the Eight of Swords comes in. Like really she was trapped in this mindset of, oh, nothing ever goes right here. Or maybe the mindset of, this is my only choice, I have to go here. So far she is arriving in a situation that she did not ask for, but tries to make something out of it, or at least has some type of idea that if she goes to another place, then everything will be fine. Now let's see what the good girl has to say about what happened next to Skye. These cards are considerably larger than what I'm used to, so shuffling is also more difficult. Oops, I got one in my hand, so we'll take that. What else do we have for Skye? This one. Oh. It flipped as I tried to put it on the table, which may also represent how this person may have acted in her presence. But let's first take a look at you. Okay, we have the Tower and the King of Fire. Now the King of Fire is the King of Wands. So the Tower is often a situation that you were not expecting, a big change. Perhaps the thought that she had over here and over here, like, oh, this is going to be great, turned out not to be true after all, at least not what she was expecting, and that really threw off her enthusiasm. Perhaps she met somebody whom she thought would be able to help her out, because the King of Fire, the King of Wands, somebody who's normally very actionable, usually also has a plan, and as you saw, it twisted as it fell on the table. So maybe even though this person's intentions may not have been bad, they may eventually have given her the wrong advice or said something that didn't suit her at all, and that may be like the hope that she may have had or held in this person to be able to save her or to be able to guide her in the right direction was dashed because of something that they said. Or perhaps she wanted them to help them and they were unable to do so, even though they probably were very friendly with them and really didn't want to do any harm. That's kind of what I'm getting from this card right here. Let's see what else we can get. So she went to this person and they didn't quite give them the information or help that they wanted. We have call, which is judgment. It's in reverse. So judgment day came in a way, or at least she felt judged. Perhaps she had to rely on her own. I mean, she had 3 years of Japanese studies, and I don't know how good she really was. I did hear that the friend Brittany had apparently said to her that her Japanese wasn't all that great. Now, if you're not actually living in Japan, I understand that it's very difficult to learn Japanese if you aren't already able to speak to somebody in Japanese, if you don't have a lot of Japanese material, which of course in the US, many places you don't have a lot of Japanese people around to speak to. So maybe her Japanese was not too great, or at least not good enough to make herself understood, and perhaps that judgment came up again, or at least she felt judged over it. Now, the place where she went, Hokkaido, is way up north, and I believe Sapporo is a fairly large town. I read that it's a town of about 2 million people. I'm sure there are people there who speak English, but particularly in 2008 when she went there, there would be very few people who would be able to speak English on a level that they would be able to help her out much. And if her Japanese was also not great, then you have a bit of miscommunication here. In any case, we do see here the 9 of, this is Earth, so that would be Pentacles, and it's in reverse, and that probably means that her money ran out. And that is also referencing here this Judgment Day, at least what I was saying earlier about how she had to rely on her own. The money ran out, and she was not able, or at least she was trying to make do with what she could, but there was, of course, a barrier there. And that's a sign that it didn't quite work out the way that she wanted, at least the survival part, so to speak. What else can we find? For Skye, oh, a couple of them flipped, and one on top of that, okay. The one on top, the Queen of Water, which is a Queen of Cups. Alright, so maybe she found somebody else who was trying to help her out. We have here the Page of Water, Page of Cups in other words, and the Messenger of Earth. Now the Earth, the messengers are the knights in this deck. So we have the Knight of Pentacles again. Maybe the same person that we had earlier here. The Day Trader was also the Knight of Pentacles. So perhaps, yeah, the Prince of Discs. Maybe they had contact again. Maybe she tried to contact them to try and get some type of help from them, even though initially their introduction did not go well. And maybe she is the one who is being represented here by the Queen of Water. She was perhaps very much in her emotions, like very emotional state, trying her best to get like connected to this person again, or somebody similar to them, to try and get them to help her out. The Page of Cups, though, which is usually a surprise card, is in reverse. So I think whatever attempt she made to connect to these people to try and get them to help her out fell on deaf ears, or at least on ears that were unwilling to help out. So unwilling ears in that case. Then what happened to Skye? Oh, that one. Those just slid off, or it's just one card. No, it's 2 cards. Okay. Okay. The Hierophant came in, and we have the 9 of Cups as well. Hierophant is normally somebody who is well known within the community. Could be some type of law enforcement. Usually somebody who is more of a spiritual leader in an area. Like perhaps not officially able to make law and all that sort of thing, but somebody who stepped in and who was from some type of high position interfered here. We have the 9 of Cups, which is normally like feeling really good. So maybe at this point she found somebody who was able to help her out, or perhaps somebody from some type of agency or some type of renown within the community who was willing to help out. So that's good, and she's feeling pretty good about that. What result can we find? this one. Transformation. Oh, this is actually the death card in this deck. Let me just put the rest of them down. So transformation is a girl looking at something that used to be very pretty, sitting in her hand and burning up and floating away. The embers are spreading through the air. Now this is the death card, and this deck, it's called the Good Tarot, and it's not meant to have a lot of heavy negative imagery in it. So the death card in this case is a very soft death card in the sense of there's always new beginnings, and in order for something to begin, something else has to end, and it's just part of the cycle and not really something to be afraid of. So this did end something, but it's in reverse, so perhaps she was unable to let something go. So maybe this Hierophant gave them some information, some tips, some help, and instead of perhaps saying, no, I think I need to go back home because this isn't working out, they really clamped onto that advice and decided that they were not going to let go of this dream that they had, and would continue to pursue it doggedly. Maybe this Hierophant really just tried to steer them in the right direction. Maybe this person just came in and said, you know what, maybe you should try this or try that. And there may have been a language barrier that's caused some information to not translate correctly to Skye and back and forth between the two of them. But I think that, although one card has fallen on the floor, they didn't quite take it seriously, or at least they were unwilling to give something up. We have here the Prince of Swords, which is the Knight of Swords. So this is perhaps her telling all sorts of stories to the people, or trying to tell all sorts of stories to the people nearby. This kind of reminds me of Hannah Up a while ago. Hannah Up was the one who had the dissociative fugue, and she probably in her state was telling all sorts of stories to try and keep people from worrying about why she was walking down the street, maybe. I don't know. Or why she wasn't in a house or something along those lines. It kind of reminds me of that. It has a similar energy, this Knight of Swords, in the sense that she may have tried to keep people off her back. Maybe people, because if you're an American in Japan and you don't look Japanese, or any type of nationality in Japan and you don't look Japanese, people will notice you and they will pay attention to you. So perhaps she was like telling stories to the local people there to try and get them to not pay attention to her, or make it seem like she was perfectly fine. Like maybe some people worried about her, wondering what she was doing here all alone, perhaps at night, and started to try and help her out, ask her questions, and she just kind of avoided them. Then we have the Knight of Wands, which is the king in this case. So the King of Wands, we had that earlier right here. Either this person came back again to try and help her out. Maybe though this is a slightly different person, or this is her own attitude, like I'm just going to do whatever, I'm going to do what I think is best, and perhaps not think too deeply about it, because the Knight of Wands or the King of Wands in this deck, the King of Wands in general is very actionable. It's a fiery card and somebody who will not wait to see how things pan out, to just have an idea and they go for it. So this could be her just lying her way out of people being concerned about her wandering around all alone, and then trying to make things work by just doggedly keeping up the appearance and trying to find a place, etc. Now, I don't think, quite honestly, that the people there will have noticed anything wrong with her. I do get here the Six of Swords, which is well, in this case it's called science, and there's a snake and there's a heart and there's a nice little picture in the background of somebody's body being x-rayed, and normally it would be somebody sitting on a boat being led away. I'm thinking this may have a similar vibe, but it's more of perhaps falling in with the wrong type of people who led her away, particularly looking at this snake here. It's very fascinating, and she may have encountered a few people that appeared that they knew what they were doing, and in her state of wanting to just get things done, they may have seemed like the right people at the right time. So she may have been led astray by some other people. But I was just busy saying that if something would have happened to somebody who did not look Japanese and people would know about it, they probably would have reported it, because that stands out Similar to if she may have been like arrested or something along those lines. That probably would have made at least some newspaper headlines. And they probably would have contacted the US Embassy about that, because of course she is a US citizen. So I don't think that happened. And we're also not really seeing that in the cards, that she was detected and detained, even though we did have the 10 of Wands earlier that showed somebody being detained. But that's more of a mental state. Anyway, let's see what else we can get over here. Oh, a flip. So we have the 4 of Pentacles in reverse. So after this 6 of Swords right here, that looks as though she may have been falling in with the wrong crowd. This card to me says she may have been robbed at that point. She was traveling with cash. She didn't have a credit card on her. She just took a bunch of cash out of her account and went to Japan. I think this may be the part where she may have been mugged or tricked out of her money by these people, these individuals. And then this one. This is Temperance. Alright, so Temperance is normally a card of trying to be balanced, trying not to lose your temper, also balancing different energies. So I think that after this happened to her, she tried to sort herself out. Also kind of interesting if you look at this sign here, top right, there is a hand and a person walking. So normally those crossing signs either show that you have to walk or you have to stand still. But in this case it shows both. I don't know if it normally does that. I don't think it does, because that would be very confusing. But it's almost like two things were trying to be done at the same time. Like she tried to stand still, like take a moment to figure things out, and she tried to get moving. So this may have been the point where she's like, okay, that just happened. I just have to find a way to carry on, and we're just going to try to make the best of it. Still that same energy of just trying to do whatever she can with the energy that she has, but still unable to let go. I'm looking at the Death card over there in the end. Okay, we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is the King of Pentacles in reversed again. So this might be, she seems to be drawing in the same type of people over and over again, because this is the third Knight slash King of Pentacles that we have in our reading so far. Now the King of Pentacles is somebody who is definitely a lot more well balanced usually. In this case though, he's in reverse. I think they may have found some way to take some advantage of her in her vulnerable state with no money and hardly speaking the language. So this is definitely not a great card to follow that up with. Also noticing that these guys are out of line. Okay, so somebody potentially came and took advantage of her. What is next? How does it end with her? Did it end with her? Because we don't know anything about her. She could be having her best life over there. Okay, a couple of cards on the floor. Just as I said that, let's see what we've got. 4 of Swords and the Ace of Pentacles. Alright, that's interesting. 4 of Swords is normally taking a break, and then the Ace of Pentacles is an opportunity. So I think after having met this King of Pentacles in reverse, no less, she decided to take a break. The card itself is also called Truce. So it's like, okay, hang on, let me just take a moment. We'll talk about this later. Let me just collect my thoughts on the current situation. And after that, she may have gotten an idea, whether it was from somebody else or herself, I don't know. But let's see how that idea panned out. Okay. And the 4 of Cups. Okay, so this card says to me that even though they had a new idea, a new initiative, they kind of didn't pursue it. It's called luxury here, but it might as well be called decadence or hedonism, something along those lines. Like they're just kind of like, they've had everything, they've had their fill, and they're not really looking to move. Also, this new initiative may not have even really been her idea in the first place, because we do still have this king over here. Four Cups normally just being unable or unwilling to make a choice, so she kind of got stuck right there. So there was a new initiative being undertaken, and then she just got stuck. This one? Okay. Let's see. And then we have the Hermits. Okay, so I think after that she decided to just escape society as a whole. So maybe she got in another depressive mood and found that nothing was really going for her. The Hermit is somebody who retreats from society to try and perhaps come up with a new plan or just meditate under a situation. But this person in this card looks fairly hard done by, and also if you look at his face, it's almost like he's got this almost like a kabuki mask on. There's also a gargoyle in the background, so this looks like somebody hitting the bottom rung of society pretty much. Like, even though they decided to take a break from all the ideas and all the plans and try to, I guess, retreat and recover, it seems more like a downward slope. Even getting an image that maybe she found some forest that people don't tend to go too much and just try to eke out an existence there, as perhaps the crazy forest lady, I don't know, something along those lines. Some way of escaping other people and just being so thoroughly disappointed that they just did not want to continue with their previous plans and giving up on that and just kind of withdrawing as a result of that. Oops, there's one. Okay, final card, Nine of Air, which is the Nine of Swords, which is a lot of anxiety. It's worry. It's usually represented by somebody who is being kept up at night. So I think there's a lot of anxiety there. She may have ended with anxiety. We do see somebody who is about to take off with what look like duck wings, even though they're surrounded by doves. It's a bit of a heavenly imagery, which is kind of strange because the Nine of Swords, like I said, is more of an anxiety card. Maybe anxiety for taking that final leap is being represented here. In any case, I don't think this shows that we're going to see too much from her. It's almost like she's about to disappear into the mist. So I think she gave up on her plans. She went into her hermit mode here, and then we're not going to see too much from her because she just kind of bowed out from the world and never to be seen again, it seems. At least so far we've seen no trace, and this card seems to be pointing towards her wanting to take off and not be found again. So that is what I'm seeing for Skye Lynn Budnick. Hope you found that interesting. In any case, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section below. That really helps the channel along. I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye bye for now.